If you've ever wondered how to make sure your YouTube channel art or banner looks good on all devices, well, I'm going to show you in this particular tutorial. This is a common mistake for users using YouTube or perhaps new to creating content, where they will basically upload an image for their channel art but won't give enough consideration to how that actually looks on other devices. So in this tutorial, I'm going to take you through the process of basically designing your very own YouTube channel banner within Canva. But in particular, we're going to focus on how to ensure that your measurements and dimensions are actually correct, so that when your banner is put into YouTube and viewed on different devices such as a TV or desktop or mobile, all of the most important content that you want your users to see will be visible. We'll go right through the process though, so we'll have a look at actually setting up our own design artboard within Canva. We will create a design, and then after we've created the design, we will download it, and we will also then upload it to YouTube so you can see how it looks. Before I get into actually creating the design, let's first of all talk a little bit more about how your banner looks in YouTube. So you'll see on screen here I have logged into YouTube. This is just a test channel, and this is a banner which I knocked up really quickly earlier, but basically it's got the kind of main content you tend to see on YouTube channel banners. So sometimes there's a picture of the person like I've got here, you've got the name of the channel, maybe a little strap line, and then there might be an option here that asks people to, to click on the subscribe button or to go visit social media account. This banner is currently displayed on a desktop computer, so we can see all of the important content here. However, if this was to be viewed on a mobile device, then only certain parts of this particular banner would be displayed. The reason for that is when YouTube resizes the window, or you view it in an app on a mobile device or on a larger screen, it doesn't actually just resize this channel art here. It basically zooms in and only shows a specific proportion of it. So if it's viewed on, for example, YouTube on a TV, it will show a much bigger area, which is actually beyond what we see on the desktop here. But if it's on a mobile, we'll only see a small part. And that's why it's so important that when you're creating your banners in Canva or in other applications, you make sure that the sizing is correct. To better illustrate that, I'm going to go back to this area here. And what you'll see here is if I hover over this area here, this is how this particular banner will look if viewed on a TV. So if we view this channel on a TV, we can see all of this content here, which is perfect. If I hover down on this area here, you'll see that this is what is viewable on a desktop. So if I just open this channel on a desktop like I did a second ago, we can see all of this channel here. Again, this is perfect. If I hover over to this area, viewable on all devices, this basically shows me what is going to be visible on a mobile device. So anything that you see there in the kind of lightish grey colour around is not going to be visible to the user on their phone. And that's why it's important that you make sure you correctly size your artboards so that your artwork is designed for where it's going. You'll see on the right hand side of the screen I've just popped a little overlay up which shows basically how this looks on a mobile device. Now if I cancel this and if I go back to upload and try to upload an incorrectly sized banner, you'll see when I go to viewable on TV, it still looks okay. We can see all of the content, so that's fine. You'll see there I have actually nudged the profile picture across a little bit, and I've actually made the text much bigger, because if I go down to desktop, it's still looking okay. We can see all of the content. But if I go to mobile or all devices, you will see that we're actually cutting out the first and last letters of the channel name. So I've not really given much thought here to the correct dimensions for the mobile area. And for that reason, when somebody looks at this on a mobile phone, it's just simply not going to look right. So in this tutorial, we're going to look at how to actually correctly size our artwork, and then we'll bring it into YouTube at the very end and you'll see how it looks. So the tutorial is not really going to focus too heavily on how to actually properly design and to create a channel banner that looks incredible. It's more talking about the principles of doing it the correct way in terms of sizing. So let me just cancel this, and I'm going to jump across to Canva just now. I'm logged into Canva Pro here, so I pay a monthly fee for it. I'll be using a couple of the Pro features, but it's not imperative. If you are on a free account, you'll still be able to do everything that I'm going to do in this video. It's just I might use some of the premium elements, such as the perhaps the images from the libraries, etc. But it's not imperative. If, however, you quite fancy having a go of Canva Pro, I've got a link in my description you can click on, and it will give you a free 30-day trial, so you can have a go at that if you're interested. But one of the big benefits of Canva is that you get access to premium or free templates. So if you don't actually want to design your own YouTube banner from scratch, like we're going to do in this tutorial, you can make use of their templates. So I can come up to the search area here. You'll see I've actually previously ran a search for YouTube banner, so I'll run another one just now. And this basically brings up loads of banners which have been designed. Now, normally with the likes of Canva, users will grab one of these templates and basically just make slight changes to it and reuse them. Let's say, for example, this one here. Now, that's absolutely fine, but having just shown you how the sizing works in YouTube, I know for a fact if I was to take this particular banner, which is still the correct overall dimensions in terms of height and width, this, when it's viewed on a mobile, will actually only show a small area, and we'll probably see a part of this lady's arm. We'll probably maybe even cut off some of the subscribe, and it probably just won't look right. And that's the case with a lot of these templates. So if I click on this one, for example, it's a nice template, looks great on this view just now, would look great on TV. However, if it's viewed on a desktop, we might be chopping a bit of his head off here, and certainly if this is viewed on a mobile, we're going to be losing a lot of the content here. So rather than designing from one of these templates, instead I'm going to design from scratch. So I'm going to go up to create a design. Now, the good thing about Canva and apps like Adobe Express is it already knows the sizes that we want to use. So I could go to custom size and then type in the dimensions of YouTube banners, but I'm going to run a search here for YouTube banner, and you'll see that it actually already has artboards the correct size. So we'll go for this one here. It'll open a new tab, and we have a completely new design. Now, at this moment in time, if you still think actually I'd rather use a template, you've got the templates library on the left hand side which you can select. Just be mindful that if you are a free user, then some of them will be pro templates, so you won't be able to use them unless you pay or use that trial for free Canva Pro for 1 month. So it's worth noting anything that's pro you'll need a license for. Okay, so we have our artboard here. The first thing we need to do is we need to basically set up our margins for the content to make sure that when we're designing this, everything is going to be correctly sized to fit wherever it needs to, for mobile, for desktop, and for our full screen view. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I've already gone to Google and I've basically typed in YouTube channel banner sizes, and you'll see there are lots of these guides online. In fact, there's loads of them. The one that I quite like is this one here, which I'll just open larger, and I'll put a link to this in the description, so you can basically just click straight on that link and you'll get to here. But what this is basically telling me is that desktop minimum and mobile is 1546 by 423, so it's 423 high and 1546 wide. Then we've got slightly wider in terms of tablet, not much though, but it's still the same height. And in the desktop max, that's the full width desktop, is 2560 again by 423, and then the full view is the TV one. So we're going to use the data that we have here to basically create our, if you like, our own template with correct margins. So I'm going to jump back into this design here, and before I begin, I'll just quickly give it a name. So I'm just going to put new YouTube banner. I'll put template because we might decide to reuse this. So for me to be able to work out how our setup is going to be in 423 pixels, what I need to first do is go to File, and then I need to go down to View Settings, and I'm going to use Show Rulers and Guides, because without these, I don't know where 423 pixels are. So I'm going to choose Show Rulers and Guides, and now we get these handy rulers that come up. So the first one we're working with here is going to be 1546 by 423. So first of all, I'm going to worry about the height here, which is 423 pixels. So we'll jump back to the artboard here, and if I want to grab a horizontal guide, basically just hover over the ruler here and drag one down. And you'll see over on the left hand side, as I move this, it's telling me how many pixels from this top point here down to where we release we are. So I'm looking for 423. Now you'll see here I've got 419, 421, 424. So I'm just going to hold the Command key, or Control if you're a Windows user, and instead I'm going to basically zoom in. So I'm going to use Command and I'm going to use the roller wheel on my mouse, which lets me zoom in quite a bit. And now I can grab this again and just move it up to make it 423. Of course you could have zoomed here, but I prefer the Command or Control and roller wheel method because it basically will zoom in to the point where the cursor is. So now if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see that we basically have from this point here, which is 0 pixels, down to 423, this is the correct height of this box here, but it's not in the correct position, it's basically further up. I'm going to press the R key, which is going to generate a new rectangle. Okay, so this is just a standard shape, and we're going to use these shapes to basically build out the template, and then what we'll do is we'll delete them, and then we'll create the main design. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it up to the very top point here, and I'm going to drag the right hand side along. So you'll see it tells me that it's 432 high, so it's a little bit too high, but it's 2560 wide, which is perfect. I'm then going to do what I did before, so I'm going to use Command, I'm going to roll in, and I'm going to take this bottom point, I'm going to drag it just up to here till it says it's 423, which is bang on there. Okay, so you see, just release it down there, and I think I actually moved the marker slightly, so we'll pop that back. So we've now got this, which is 423, but it's sitting at the top. So this is going to basically be the full width desktop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the object here, the shape, go to position, and I'm going to move it to middle. So it's now aligned right in the center. So you don't really need to worry about this particular guide at this moment in time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that down and drop it in there at 509. So now what we have is this basically is the guide running along here, and we have the 423, it'll be from there down to there. So at this point I'm going to take another guide and I'm just going to drop that down onto here at 931. The reason for that is that later on when we delete this shape we'll want to have the guide still visible. So you'll see as I move it we've got two guides there. I'll just pop that back for now because we're going to remove the shapes and be left with the guide markers. Next thing we need to do is we have to look here, so it's 1546. So I'm going to go back into here, and I might need to zoom in slightly for this one. I'm going to zoom to roughly where we have about 1546, was that I said? 1546. So I've zoomed in around about there. I'm going to grab one of these marker points that's going from 0, it's going all the way along, and we've got 1546 is about here. Then I'm going to zoom back out, and then basically this is going to be the full width of the mobile area here. So now to sort this out, what we do is we take this end point and drag it back. So this box here is now the exact same dimensions here. So it's 1546 by 423. The only problem is that this is not centrally aligned, but we can fix that now by clicking on the object, position and center. And now hopefully you'll see that this area in the middle here is basically the same as this. Final thing to do is to grab that marker point there and drag that one back to that point and there, and we now have the mobile safe zone. The next one we have to worry about here is the main desktop one and the tablet. Now if we want to do a tablet, we basically do the exact same method, so we do 1855. So I'm going to go into here, I'm going to drag one of the markers in, so let's drag this one along to 1855, which is about here. And then all we're going to do is we're going to basically take this shape, and I'm going to hold the Alt key, and you'll see when I click on the shape and hold Alt, I can drag and it basically duplicates. And then I'll just do it up here just to make sure. So 1855, drag it along, and I'm going to change the color of this just to a different color so we can distinguish between the two. Now what I'm going to do is I need to position this down here, so I'm going to click on the shape, position, center, which centers it there on the vertical, and horizontal. So we're now totally done. The problem is that this shape is sitting in front of the mobile view, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to use center back, and you'll see it's now behind. If we want to, we can move the markers in here just to know where our mobile safe view for tablets are, so we'll drop that in there. And then again, if I go back to this view now, hopefully you can see it's pretty clear. We've got the mobile safe view, and we've then got tablet, and if I jump back here, tablet and mobile. Now if you really want to, you could also do one for desktop stretching to here, but there's basically no point, because what we're going to do now is we're going to click on each of these objects and press the delete key to take them out, because now we're left with this view here. Now I've got an extra little marker here, I'm just going to drag that off to get rid of it. So we can now look at this, and if I just zoom out, we basically have our template. So everything that would be the main TV view, everything from this point to this point there, from edge to edge, but with this as the top point and this as the bottom, that's going to be your desktop max view. And then if we go back here, we've got from this line to this line, but again, top and bottom points, that's your tablet safe zone. And in this bit in here, this is your mobile one. So at this point here, you might want to basically exit out, and then you can always basically, if you want to keep this as a template, you can reuse it, or we could go to file and we could use the make a copy option. So I can then come in and say, okay, we're going to make a copy of that, and this one's going to be called golf channel banner, something like that. So now we're not actually touching this original one. This has become our template that we're never going to use again. We're just going to keep copying, and this is going to be our template that we're going to use to make the golf channel banner. Now it is worth noting that these guides, it's quite easy to move them, so we're going to make sure that we keep them in place without clicking and dragging them accidentally. Those, you can lock them in other applications like Adobe, but on here I'm not sure if you can actually lock them, so we'll just leave them in place for now. So we need to get a background picture. So if I go back to here, you'll see I've got a golf course image. So I'm going to go into photos, and I'll just search in here for golf course. Keep it nice and simple. In here, I'm going to locate a golf course picture. I'm going to use this one. You'll see this is a pro one. If you're just doing this yourself, you're welcome to use another one that doesn't have pro on it. We'll choose this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to set it as the image background. So that now takes up the whole image. Now I have plenty of other tutorials on my channel explaining how to properly work with your images and crop them and resize them. In this case here, I'm going to select the image, I'm going to go to crop, and I'm just going to hold the Alt key to drag it out and position it around about here, so that when we view it on a mobile, perhaps we want to get a little bit of the sea view like that. Now hopefully you are finding this tutorial to be useful. If you are, remember to smash that like button and comment below to let me know which tool you usually use to create your YouTube channel art, and if you have ever correctly sized it before, or if you usually just upload any old image and hope for the best. Whilst you're here, remember to hit that subscribe button for 2-minute tech tutorials to show your support to the channel. And once you've watched this video, I've got plenty of other video tutorials on my channel for things like Microsoft Word, Adobe Express, and doing more things using Canva. Now let's get back to this tutorial. Okay, so we're happy with that. Now you'll notice in this one here it's actually blurred. So how do we get the blur effect? Well, I'm going to click on the image, edit image, and we'll use the blur option from in here. Now if you can't find the blur option, you can scroll down or you can run a search up here. I'll click on blur, and it takes a little minute to open up the blurring options. Once they open though, we'll just hit auto to save time, and I'll drop the blur down to around about maybe 10 or so. So it's just a subtle blur there. Then I'll click apply. Now at this point I'm going to click off. It can sometimes just take a little minute to process, and if you did have any other pieces of content on the artboard, they would actually right now be behind this image. So it'll just take a little second. When it says saving paused, that means it's still doing its thing. Once that has finished, then you will see the save icon will change and it will have fully blurred this image. The reason it takes a little while is it's a really high resolution image, so it takes a second. So now we'll see it's fully saved and fully blurred the image. The next thing I want to do is I want to add in my text. So to add the text, I'm going to go to the text area here. I'm not going to work through any of these templates or recently used here combinations. I'm just going to go add a heading, and I'm going to double click in here, and I'll just keep it the same as the other one. So I'll do Andy's golf blog, and you'll see right now if I leave it just as it is, it's going outside of the safe zone for mobile devices. So this is where we need to start thinking about these guides that we've got set up. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to hold the Alt key, which will resize it from the center, and I'm just keeping it inside the margins there. And at this point I'll maybe just move it up slightly like that. Now we wanted another little piece of text below that, so To save time, I'm actually just going to drag this one down by holding the Alt key and dragging at the same time. I'll then select it all, and we'll maybe make this something like 80. In fact, let's make it a lot smaller. Let's do it 40. So it's quite a bit smaller. And then in here, we'll just change the text. So I'm going to put reviews, tips. I'll just go for reviews, tips and tutorials, and then I'll change the color of this. We'll just go for a sort of like a quick yellow or something like that. Now for this text here, we'll change the color in that one to white. So all I did is choose the color option, change it to white, and then I might choose a different font for this. So I'll maybe go for this font for this one. But you'll see that by changing the font, it has obviously moved outside of the safe zone. So I could just drop the size. I'll just use the option up here. And then I'm going to go to effects, and we'll just put one of these little lift effects on, so it just puts a little bit of darkness around the text, making it a bit easier to read. And this one here, I'll maybe choose a slightly different font. We'll go for this one here, and we'll give that the same sort of effect so it's easier to read. Now these two here, I want to group them together so that I can centrally align them together relative to each other. So I'm going to hold the Shift key and select them both. They're now both selected, and I'll go to Group. And now you'll see if I zoom out, they're not quite bang in the middle of the artboard. So because I've grouped them, when I move them, they move together. So it's quite easy at this point to go to Position, which is for both of these, and then use Center and Middle. They're now positioned in the middle. Now one of the things you'll see on this one is there's a little kind of like a dark overlay over this image. I could go in and adjust the image properties, but what I find a little bit easier and much quicker, to be honest, is to just press the R key and make another shape. I then take the shape and I use these options to resize it and drag it over everything, so over the image. And then what I do is I change the color to black, so it's now black, and then we change the opacity or the transparency up here, and I usually just drop that to maybe something like 20 in this case. So you'll see if I drag it to the side, that's the image without it, and it just makes it a little bit easier to read the text. So last couple of things we need to do with regards to the design. I'm not going to worry about making this, that's basically just a text with a little shape behind it, but I will bring in this image here. So for that, I'm going to go to Elements, and I'm going to type in Frame. And you'll see I've ran a search for frames before. Now these frames are great, you can basically drop them in, then put pictures on top, and it essentially just crops them to the shape. So let's bring this shape in here, let's just resize it a little bit. And when I'm moving around here, I'm always being mindful that I don't want to drag the grid, drag the marker like that. So I want to be careful of not moving the guides. I'm going to just click on the object, move that into position. But you'll see in this one here, I'm wanting to basically align it between this point here and this point here. So what I would do is I'd hover over this area here. This particular guide is 507 in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to half that. So 253.5 should I say. I'm going to drag another marker along. So 253. We can't really do 0.5, so we'll just go for 53. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and then you'll see it snaps. So it's now gone, the guides have changed into a kind of pinky colour. That means it's centrally aligned. If it was perhaps aligned on the vertical but not on the horizontal, I could go to Position and just align it in the middle like this. But I know that this is now going to be evenly spaced between this line and the outer line here. And this is actually in the desktop zone, but you'll see with this line coming down here, only this small piece might be visible on some of our tablets, which have a slightly wider box. So it may be the case that what I want to actually do with this is just nudge it across slightly so that it takes it out of the view on a tablet. You just need to try that and see how it looks. So from this point here, let me just take this marker out since we're not using it. I'm going to go to Uploads, where I have a little picture of me, and I'm going to simply drag this one down onto there. So we've got a bit too much sky, so that's not a problem. Don't click and drag these corner points because you'll be resizing the whole thing. I'm going to go to Crop, and this lets me move the image around, and we'll make just a little bit bigger, and then done. And then what we have there is we've got the image in place. Now at this stage, if I go back to this view, see I've got a circle around it. If you decided you wanted that too, you can use the C key on your keyboard to generate a circle, and then you might just want to resize this slightly. So we'll make it a little bit smaller. But the issue here is that this is sitting on top of the image. Well, it's not a problem because we can right click and then go send backwards, which will put it behind. And then it's just a case of perhaps resizing it and then changing its color. So we'll make that white. Now, because we have two different objects there, you'll see as I hover over them, it's selecting them both. I'm going to use the Shift key to make sure I have selected them both. They're now one object once I click on group. And now if I move them around, they move together rather than independently. And I might just resize this one slightly. When I'm resizing, as a little side tip, I'm always using the Alt key to resize, because that way it resizes from the center rather than grabbing and resizing that way. So as a little tip for those of you looking to resize equally from the center, just hold the Alt key and you'll see as I do that, we're still 320 by 320. So it's a nice square resize there. So let's say I'm finished with this design and I'm happy with it. How do we get that from here across to YouTube? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the share button and we're going to use download. You can download it as a PNG file or you can download it as a JPEG. Personally, I tend to, for graphics like this, use PNG, but there is a limit on YouTube, so I think it's 6 megabytes or less. So if you are downloading it as a PNG, it's probably going to be a bigger file size, might be better quality, but just be mindful of when you're exporting it and uploading it to YouTube that the dimensions are actually correct. So let's go to share, let's go to download, and we will download this as it is. So once this is downloaded, we need to bring it on to YouTube. Okay, so now that we have downloaded our image, we need to bring this into YouTube. And what we need to do is we need to get to this particular page here under customization. So you can either go into YouTube Studio and click on customization and then branding, or if you are perhaps on your channel like this, so let me just go back to my channel like this. If you're on your channel page, all you need to do is click on customize channel. Of course, you need to be logged in to be able to get to this view, but you click on customize channel and then you go across to branding in here. Let me just remove this to return it to normal. So this is how it will look here, and we need to upload our banner image to this area here. So we're going to click upload, and from here I'm going to locate my image, which is this golf channel banner one here, and we are going to click open. And now you will see, if I go to viewable on TV, we can see everything. If I go down to viewable on desktop, we can see everything. And if I go to viewable on all devices, we can see everything here. And I'll put on screen a little screenshot of how it looks on a mobile when we've actually applied it. So there you go. Now if I click on done, it will take a little minute to process. Now it may look like it is updated here, but what you actually have to do is click on publish, and then don't click on view channel just yet, because before we can get to see how the channel actually looks, it will still be processing. You'll see it's still uploading it just now. Then you'll see this box that says changes published, and then you can click on view channel and it will take you to your channel and you'll be able to see your newly uploaded channel art or banner for your YouTube channel. So there you have it. That is basically the process of creating your own piece of YouTube channel art and ensuring that the dimensions are completely spot on for all of the different devices that your audience might actually be viewing your channel on. When it comes to channels, I think the channel art is a really, really important part of the channel, and using tools like Canva or Adobe Express can make the whole process much easier. But as I mentioned, it is important to ensure that the dimensions are correctly set up. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you have found this video to be useful. If you have, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to support the channel. If you're new here, then I have plenty of other Canva tutorials which you might be interested in particular these videos here.